sound of redemption. This is the way that we bring it down. Down, down, 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 down. Igniting the fire within you, exalting the melody of freedom. These are the things that will bring it down. Down, down, 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 down. So gather the faithful, tell everyone to stand and shout loud, shout loud, shout loud. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it way down. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it down, down. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it way down. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it down, down. Down, down, down.
Let me tell you, it's in the air. Joy is in the air. Love is in the air. Can you feel it? What it feel like? Freedom. What it feel like? Don't sleep on it, brother. You might get left, sister. Can you feel it? What it feel like? Freedom. What it feel like? Justice. No need to be counted, cause I am down. Down, down, down. Down, down, down. Down for the end of racism, for the end of bigotry, cause I am down. For the end of misogyny, that's right. For all the isms out there, just down, down, down. Let's bring it down. Rise up, people. No more foolishness, and let's bring it way down.
Riding the river of change into the cries of contrition. This is the way that we bring it down. Down, down, 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 down. We are the children of Eden, dancing and celebrating freedom. We are the ones that must bring it down. Down, down, 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 down. So gather the faithful, tell everyone to stand and shout loud, shout loud, shout loud. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it way down. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it down, down. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it way down. Let's bring it down. We've got to bring it down. Down. Stand up and shout. Stand up and shout. Rise together.
Accountability starts now. The Eric Dawson Radio Show.
Yeah. Rise up. Stand up, shouting loud.
If you are not prepared to come to that table and to represent that voice, don't come. Because we don't need any more brown faces that don't want to be a brown voice. We don't need black faces that don't want to be a black voice. We don't need Muslims that don't want to be a Muslim voice. We don't need queers that don't want to be a queer voice. And if you're worried about being marginalized and stereotyped, please don't even show up.
Good morning, everybody. Today is Friday. Happy Friday. I got Diane Murray Clements on the phone, and I've got Vincent Squire from South Jersey. He's running for federal office, U.S. Senate. He's running against Cory Booker. I want to welcome you guys to the show again.
Good morning.
How are you?
Just great. What happened to Diane?
Hey, listen,
Oh, there she is.
Diane just got finished telling us about her bike ride. Hey, Diane, how many miles did you ride?
I don't know. I don't know. I rode from my house down to, I guess, well, you know where I live, down to, what street is that? Not Meeker to, I don't know, somewhere in Weekly Park. I don't know. It was far. And I told you I went to go get my bike fixed because the brakes weren't working.
Now, what kind of bike do you have?
I don't know, a bike.
Diane.
It's just a bike. I don't know. It's a bike.
Wait a minute. Is it a twin? Is it a gold? What is it? A Diamondback? Is it a
Puppy?
It's pink.
Diane?
I don't know. And I went to go get the brakes done, and the brakes are great, but they didn't put my gear shifts back on, so I was only in one gear the whole time. So going up and down those hills was a bit troubling.
Where'd you
but
go?
I don't. Huh?
Where did you go to get it fixed?
You know, neighborhood bike place over on 18th Avenue.
You know, I used to have.
Oh God.
Stories for days, right? So, so when I was a kid, you know, we couldn't afford new bikes, so they would get handed down. So my brothers would get new bikes, and then, or maybe they didn't even get a new bike; it was new to them. Maybe they got a bike from one of our older cousins who got a new bike, and then my older brother got my cousin's bike, and then if my brother got a new bike, then that bike got handed down to my other older brother, and then it made its way down to me. But by the time it got to me, it was all beaten up, right? I mean, it had been painted with house paint, like interior paint, you know, all kind of craziness. But I was happy to have a bike. And then when I was old enough, and I was working a speedy job, and I was Summer Youth Employment Program, and I had my job, Diane. I was making decent money for a kid who had no bills, right? And I decided to go and buy a $600 bike.
Whoa,
Like
that's too expensive then, because that's where they start at now.
That's absolutely right. So I was 16, I think, and I bought this bike, and it was like a champagne color, and I was living on I was living on Leslie Street, and my cousin Derek asked me if he could borrow my bike. And now back then, that's when the neighborhood really started to turn bad, right? So people were stealing bikes, they were stealing kind of stuff, right? So I said, Derek, no, you can't ride my bike. Because my grandfather always said, don't borrow something from somebody you can't afford. Right? If you can't afford it, don't borrow it. And in fact, don't lend it to somebody who can't afford it, because if they break it, they can't fix it. So, or replace it. So I told my cousin no. He kept whining, and so I finally said, all right, you could just ride from here to Lyons Avenue and back. So 1 block, but a long block, right? So he went off, and I'm chatting with some of my friends about the bike, and they're telling me what a great looking bike it is, over so on. And then it dawned on me, like, where's my cousin? He's not back yet. Like, and I know how long it should take to get from the corner back. Next thing you know, Diane, I'm looking down the street and I see him walking back.
He got snatched.
Diane, I didn't have that bike for a week.
Wow.
And then, exactly what my grandfather told me, I looked at my cousin and he looked at me and shrugged his shoulders, because he didn't have $600.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Lesson learned.
Yeah. I was good. I never had my bike stolen. I remember me and my girlfriends had to beat up somebody that tried to steal their bike, but I've never had an issue because I wasn't crazy enough, 1, to lay my bike down, or 2, let anybody ride my bike. Never. Because, I felt like I was the only child since my brothers were way older than me. I don't share. So you ain't riding my bike nowhere.
We used to make bikes. Like, we would go and we'd find a frame.
And get the pieces? Yeah.
And we'd go get the pieces, and we would put bikes together. You know,
Mhm.
that's when, you know, life was different then. You know, it really was. And they, you know, we had the banana seats, and remember they called it the sissy bar. That's what it used to be called. That was that bar that connected from the back tire up, holding the seat.
Up to the back seat.
That's right. That they used to call that a sissy bar.
And you had to have a sissy bar that went 3 feet over the seat.
That's absolutely right.
Yes.
That way, if you had somebody riding on with you, they wouldn't fall off the back of the bike. But we used to put somebody on the back, right, on the back seat. Then there would be another person on the back, standing with their feet on the lugs of the back tire, and then you have somebody on the handlebars, sitting on the handlebars.
And then you had somebody on a crossbar.
We'd be 4 deep on a Diane. We'd be 4 deep on a bike.
Those are good.
Those were good times. Listen, I got a friend, John Sowell. You guys may know him.
Yes, I know John. He's an avid bike rider.
Yo, John rode to California.
Yeah, he told me.
He rode to California, and he documented it. And it was an amazing experience. He said, "Yeah,
yeah." And John's a good guy. Yeah, he tells me about all his bike rides and different competitions and races that he gets in and stuff like that.
Now I'm going to give you guys a little factoid, right? So when I got older, I bought another pretty expensive bike, and I used to ride probably maybe 60 miles a day. And then one day, I got numbness in my testicles riding, right? And what it was from, and it's very important, there's a nerve. I forgot what the nerve is called, but sitting too long, you pinch it, and it creates that numbness, right? And if you do, you can actually damage it. And so I found out through going to the doctor, and you know, and then I had to, and it was about a matter of adjusting my seat, and then also getting a pad. So any of you guys who are, because I see, you know, men, you know, riding, and you see them tugging, right? You see them stand up and they're tugging, and you know, down in their nether region. A lot of it is because you know, they're sitting wrong, and they're putting pressure on that nerve, and they're developing numbness.
I thought they were tugging because y'all just don't take baths daily.
Well, that may be it, Diane. So the bike ride is really to air the funk out, right?
Exactly.
Go downhill. Go downhill.
There's something with y'all in soap and water that just bothers you to do it every day. I don't.
It's called being a kid or being a boy.
I guess. But yeah, John Sowell. You talking about John Sowell? He and I took a class together, and he got me to juice and oranges and stuff like that, because he does all. He's like on his health kick. He's really a healthy eater and all of that. Yeah, so all those good things.
Yeah, John's a really good guy. And I can't hang around him too long because he is a very healthy guy, right? And then I just started, and he doesn't say anything to you, right?
No.
You're eating what you're eating, but you just feel guilty, you know? Because, see, I don't feel guilty if I can, hey, Diane, if I can offer you half of my cake, I don't feel guilty. Because then I'm like, we're both in it together, right? But when I go, hey, you want half the cake? You're like, nah, I don't eat sugar.
I'm good.
Then I'm like, you know what?
Like, I don't think I want it either.
That's absolutely right. But no, he's a terrific guy. Do anything for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So what else is going on, guys?
Well, you got Cory Booker talking about we need to police the police and set up a registry.
Wait a minute. We said it here, and we said, Diane, that they listen to the show, and usually a day or two after, right, we hear them saying what we said.
So why don't Cory Booker get his no talent, no imagination, and no leadership behind, and sit around us for a couple of days, and then maybe, possibly, he can win the primary.
Well, I don't know. Does he have any challengers? How many challengers are challenging?
5.
5 people.
Yes, one Democrat, 3 Republicans.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry, and 1 independent.
1 independent. Okay.
Yes. So, yeah, first of all, you got Larry Ham, who had that Kumbaya session that was supposed to be a protest, but it was talking about actually nothing or making any moves towards bringing legislation or having any of the lawmakers present who they can influence to bring legislation. And now you got Cory Booker, friends, family, listening to the show. We talked about the National Registry. We talked about the FBI. We talked about a few other things. But since they only got half of the concept, go ahead, take that. When it fails, send us a check, and we'll give you the entire plan, Mr. Booker. I'm sorry. I get a little impassionate when somebody, steals my intellectual property and uses it for their own, political gain of platitude. Because we all know Mr. Booker will do absolutely nothing, just like he did with his prison reform. You seen any prison reform under Cory Booker? No, but he ran his campaign on it. Let me get off my soapbox. How y'all doing?
So we have that. What are your thoughts, Eric?
Oh, well, look. So here's my deal, Diane. They will only do what they have to do. What they have to do. So we're sitting here saying, you know what? We want you to be human, right? We want you to care. We want you to, to work to pass legislation that is going to benefit us. And their position is we're only going to do what we have to do. And because now you see them all running around like this shit just happened. Like all of this stuff just happened. Like these inequalities didn't exist before. And so now they're running around, oh, you know what we should do? Oh, you know what we should do? And all they're doing is trying to save their political careers. That's it. Nothing else. And they will do the bare minimum. And so people have to be diligent because if all of the noise dies down like it did before, right? Black Lives Matter, it died down. So from Black Lives Matter in 2016 to now, and Cory Booker and the rest of these people just saying, oh, we need to do this. Well, wait a minute. When that young lady confronted Hillary Clinton about Black Lives Matter and her saying that we need to bring these people to heel, well, were we having conversations then? Why'd they peter off? Why wasn't Mr. Booker, out there pushing this? Why wasn't he traveling the media circuit? Why wasn't the media circuit inviting him on to talk about these issues? See, the problem is they want to continue to marginalize these issues, but these are the biggest issues in this country. They are. And they want to continue to marginalize. There's something more important. There's nothing more important. And we bought into the fact that there are other things more important. And so we need to take up these other fights. No, this is the fight.
This is the fight.
This is the fight right here. And they have all abandoned you and me. All of them. And now they're running Johnny-come-lately, not to really do anything, but to fill space, Diane. That's it. Nothing's going to... The structural change that has to happen, and we talked about this, and I know you called and said we're going to talk about other things, and I'm happy to do that. But if they're not talking structural change, and so on yesterday's show, we were talking about these glacial changes, right? Oh, we got to wait for some time. No, this has to be structural and radical. And I told you guys before, the analogy that I use, because it's really close to me, is when I was diagnosed, right? Because see, America is diagnosed now.
Right.
Right? When I was diagnosed, they said, Eric, we can't do there's no moderate like relief for what is killing you, right? We have to be radical. And when they proposed the radical surgery, my mother said, they got to take your whole goddamn stomach out? Yeah. You understand what I'm saying? Now, there are other people, well, can we just take part of it out? Can't they just sue? They said, no. And not only are we going to take your whole stomach, Eric, we got to take your spleen. And then because this thing starts to invade into your esophagus, we got to take part of that out too. Radical, because it was killing me. This thing is killing us. And we are settling for moderate solutions. We need radical.
Do you think that violence is necessary and not so much in our communities where we live, but we should actually be going to these elected officials' houses and protesting at their houses to make them do
So what I would say is this, and I said this yesterday, in terms of violence, right? And I heard this phrase today, and I'm going to start using it because I think, it just rang clear to me. It said, these policies have been violent policies. So there's been violence. So remember when I said, and I'm piecing it together little by little. But remember when I said we're in an abusive relationship with this country? We're in an abusive relationship with the Democratic Party, black people are, right?
Stockholm Syndrome.
They're violent. They are violent toward us. The policies that they support are violent. Look at your community. Look at what it births. Look at the murders and look at the robberies. Look at the devastation. It's violent. It is all violent. And these kids, they grow up in this violence. So when we talked on this show about socially transmitted diseases, right? It is the violence. So you got to eradicate these policies because they're kicking our asses. Fact. And so now when you confront it, you can't confront it passively. And that's why Malcolm said, nobody's going to give it to you. You got to take it. And if you're not willing to fight for it, you don't deserve it. See, so there's going to be a confrontation. Now, because they recognize us to be the commodity to their wealth and to their power, they're not going to want to relinquish it. At that point, be prepared to defend yourself. Now, the question yesterday was, should we be looking for them? No, I'm not going hunting anybody down. I'm simply saying, this is what I want. I understand that I am a black American. I've tossed off that whole idea of being African American. That means nothing. I am a foundational black American. I'm an American descendant of slavery. That's who I am. I understand that. And I'm coming for mine. See, and then violence, Diane, when Martin said, we're coming, right? He was met with violence. They killed him. Do you understand what I'm saying? So that's what I'm saying. Be prepared when you come. When you come, be prepared to defend yourself because they will be more violent.
Because they're looking to push back.
Because they are abused. Because this is who they are.
Of course.
This is who they are. This is the nature of who they are.
It's the foundation of America.
Bookers of the world who take money in contributions and then writes checks to other people who are aiding and abetting in the abuse. And now for him to go on television and to talk about what he wants to be able to do. Give the goddamn money back to the abusers. Start there, Corey. Start there. Stop citing your name as an endorser to these campaigns of people who are abusing us. Stop doing that. See, but you go and do that, and you have these relationships with these people who are abusing us, and you want us to believe that you're not an abuser too. Birds of a feather flock together. You asked me what I thought.
Okay. Well, I agree. If I could, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Diane.
Nope, go ahead.
I agree, 100%. First of all, the fabric, one of the two foundations and pillars of America is one, violence. The violence that we had against the British, who we called the, tyranny of evil. The violence that we had against the American originals, that they call now the American Indians. The violence that they had against the slaves, the workforce. Now, see, the difference with them calling it violence was because it was in their favor. flavor. So they give it names like expansion, the American campaign, and Homeland Security. But yet they forget about the underlying violence that has been helping them. The terrorist group called the Ku Klux Klan. But yet they want to make some radical attacks on terrorism in the Middle East. But they do not do anything about the terrorists here at home. He wants to take the group Antifa.
No, I don't want to do that. No, this ain't about Donald Trump. I don't want to do that.
Okay, well, no, it's not about Donald Trump. Okay, and to answer the second question, should we be going to these politicians' houses? No. What we should be doing is hitting these politicians where it hurts. The election.
No, I disagree with that. I think we should be going to their houses. They fucked up our neighborhoods. We need to go to their houses. We need to get in their faces. That's what we need to do. I disagree with that. That's passive. No, we need to go there and we need to stand in front of all of their homes and we need to say, look at what you did. Look at how you need to look. Don't turn away. Look. That's what we need to do.
Okay, so also we need to get a GoFundMe so that we can start bailing all these people out as well.
Well, what are you bailing people out for? You can go stand in front of somebody's house.
Because you've seen a group of peaceful protesters standing in front of the White House in the park next to the White House, and they got moved.
Well, yeah, you get moved, but you can't get arrested for peaceful protesting.
Wait a minute. Wait. Stop. See, because I don't want to give misinformation. That's not true. They hung out. They protested in front of Mitch McConnell's house. Nobody got arrested.
Yeah.
What are we talking about? They stood in front of Mitch McConnell. They stood in the street in front of Mitch McConnell's house and they didn't get arrested.
I think that's what they need to start doing. They need to break off and they need to be standing in front of every legislator's house, council person, mayor, everybody. And that's what the protest needs to be.
Yes.
They need to be afraid that what could happen to them because they haven't made things better for the people that live around them.
Oh, see, and that's the whole thing. And I'm saying no because I'm not into making threats. I'm into making action. Forget threatening them by standing in front of their house and intimidating them. Why don't we just vote them out and be gone with it? Be done with them. Don't threaten to vote them out. Vote them out.
Right. I think you could do both. I think you can do both. And for me, it's just like maybe it's cathartic, Vincent. Right? Hold on. Caller.
Good morning, everybody.
Wait, Farrakhan, hold on. Okay, I got Farrakhan on, but hold on 1 second. Maybe it's cathartic, Vincent. See, one could say, you know what? If these police officers, so now they've all been charged, right? And the charge, the murder 3 has been upgraded to murder 2, right? Something like that. And so we say, okay, fine. But now when the family and then the community decides to show up and pack the courthouse, one could say, well, why go to the courthouse? Just let the thing go. No, maybe it's cathartic, right? You did this to me. So I want to come and I want to confront you. I think that's okay. Go ahead, Farrakhan. I think it's okay.
I don't know. There might be a time delay. When I was here when you guys were still talking about going to politicians' houses or something to that effect. If that's where you guys are still at, then I'll comment. If not, I'll just let it go.
No, go ahead.
No, he's still taking a visit, getting I just want to say, wouldn't it be more prudent for people to get on? Politicians can't fix your life. They can't change your life. They're not going to. Okay? At this point, it is on the individual to get active in improving their life. Something that people aren't doing. Again, we've been having this conversation for the last 3 months about how people know they need to improve their life and do better, but all they're doing is asking to go back to the same job. They're not doing anything to make their careers and their future better. So I don't think that it's prudent to go to a politician's house and stand in front of their house and say, see, look what you've done to me, because in most cases, they haven't. Right? And now, I might be able to say a guy like Joe Biden, who's been in office for 40 damn years, right, 47 years as a politician, he might have some effect on why black society is the way it is, or a person's life in Delaware is the way it is, because he's made no changes in an entire lifetime. But I'm not going to say, I can't say Vaz Baraka, okay? My life is the way it is because of you. He's only been damn mayor for, I'm 47, he's been mayor for less than 8 years. You understand? So I don't think that is the right way to go about it. Right? I think that people have to get up and figure out how to make a move. And most people don't. Most people sit there and want to be moved, somebody to push them, right? Somebody to carry.
But Farrakhan,
Right.
don't you think there's multiple ways that things could be done? Because initially, when this all started, I said, this is going to go away by Wednesday. Wednesday has gone. We into day 10 of this protest. But aren't there multiple levels and facets of things that need to be done concurrently? Marching, protesting, standing in front of the house.
I don't think anybody should be marching or protesting. I think people should be doing something. I don't think marching and protesting. Like I said, I said this the other day on the show. I asked the protesters, "What's next?" And none of them have an answer for that. I literally pulled up on the corner of somebody in Montclair and said, "Hey, what is next?"
Right. This is what I'll say to you, Farrakhan.
And they have no answer.
But Farrakhan, I want to say this.
What are you going to do?
Right. But here's the thing, right? It's like whenever I've launched an advertising campaign, you have an awareness campaign first, right? It's just making everybody aware, and then once people are aware, then you have a call to action, right? But sometimes it's just an awareness. Hey, do you know? Hey, did you know? Hey, did you know? Hey, did you know? And I'm sure you've seen commercials like that where it's just like a commercial and you saw it, right? You didn't go buy. It wasn't a hard sell to go buy it. It was just making you aware. And so what I'm saying is, whether it's a rally, whether it's a protest, a group of people, I can't tell you a number of times when I drove by a construction site and saw construction workers out there with the big rat, right? I became aware, right? They didn't particularly ask me to do anything. They just made me aware. So I'm like, oh, okay. I'm conscious that people are still struggling, people are fighting, and now maybe if it's not me, maybe one of the other 400 or 500 people that passed them might look at some legislation that might be impacting those people or some stuff that's happening, right? And they may get involved in some different way. So I'm simply saying, to Vincent's point, yeah, we should vote them out, but I don't have an issue with an awareness campaign either, right? But if you just have the one thing, then it's going to peter out because it's all based on emotion. So there's got to be a follow-up. That person may not know what the follow-up is that you asked, right? But they're part of an awareness campaign. And now if something else is going to happen, and if that person stays involved and gets involved in whatever that next phase is, right? So maybe they're part of a mailing list.
But they don't, though. They don't. See, and you want to know why, Diane, this has lasted 10 days, okay, when it could have been quashed in about 3? Is because that's exactly what they want. They want people to burn out on the protesting. They want people to burn out on the marching and then go home and say they did their part. See,
it's funny that
if they really, right, in the end, and I put a post about it, right, in the end, all they want to do is make sure black folks don't get mad and look at the white guy across the street and say, that's where I'm going next. That's who I'm hitting next. It's what they want, and they're burning themselves out.
If we could add to it, see, there's one thing about awareness, and the problem that we have.
Hold on, you gotta let Diane speak. She was trying to.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Diane.
No, let him go because mine is a little bit longer. But go ahead. Mm-hmm.
Okay, one thing that I can understand about awareness, and the big thing that I'm sick and tired of is us having these protests or periods of awareness. We need to get past that and get America to acknowledge now. It's a wonderful thing of being aware. That just basically means that you have knowledge of it. But when you come to the point of acknowledgement, you come to the understanding of your culpability, the part that you played in this cycle of events. And then we can work on, then once they acknowledge that or say or admit that they are not all powerful, that they have done wrong, and that leads them to the point of making the change. We haven't gotten most of them to acknowledge. We've only gotten 1%. And the only thing they're acknowledging right now is that Kaepernick was right by taking a knee, because at least the knee didn't smash a window in Macy's.
So, it's funny that you say what you said, Farrakhan, about protesting. Stacey Abrams, who is the Georgia Democrat, she talked about how she physically was not going out into the protest in regards to George Floyd, and that she was being supportive in other ways. She sat down with the CNN guy, Don Lemon, and she was telling him that she appreciates the instinct of leaders to join in these protests, but too often, like you said, our president distracts from their message. She said instead what she's been doing is she's been supporting protesters with bail funds and lawyers and helping getting the message out.
Hey, if that works, fine, and I respect that. I think that at this point in time, first off, nobody's got to tell me that my situation is messed up, so I don't need no awareness on that. Okay, and I don't think most people need awareness on that. What I think people need is to understand it. I think everybody needs to know their first step, and most people don't know it. It causes a paralysis, right? Most people, when you don't know what to do, you don't do anything. That's a dangerous thing, and what has happened for Black America, because we don't know the next step, we don't do anything.
Right.
And you see it every day. You see it every day.
So
every time you go into the hood, all these places that people are talking about in the innocent. You know, my brother said something. He was speaking about the ghetto, right? Because I don't know if anybody saw that video. It's like a white girl debating with her father, and he's like, the people in the ghetto, they don't want anything, they don't do anything. And the thing is this, it's not Black. When you talk about ghetto, you can't talk about Black. Because it's the same in the Asian ghetto. It's the same in the Indian ghetto, right? They kill each other.
Right.
They fight each other.
Right.
They're poor. They live in the dirtiest and most downtrodden conditions.
So
that's what poverty does.
But here's the deal, Farrakhan. So you might not, you may be enlightened enough not to need awareness, but there are folks who still have a lot of questions, right? They just are. It's unfortunate, but a lot of it has to do with a lack of education, right? A lack of, whether at home, and I'm not going to say whether at home, but I also think that the miseducation in the school system plays a big part in it. But we've had younger folks on this show when I was in the other studio, and they didn't know certain things. And so this is an awareness for them. So I'm not going to knock that. I'm saying if you're more woke than they are, then that's great, right? So then we should be doing more. But for those people who are not quite where we are yet, maybe that's their first step.
Now that's what I said to you the other day on the show, right? Well, hold on, Vince. One second. Go ahead, now that's what I said to you the other day on the show. I said, okay, there are those whose role is going to be protesting. There are those whose role is going to be tearing up and looting. And then there are those like yourself. I
don't want to get into a back and forth debate, right? I don't want to.
No, I'm not getting. This is the way forward. It's not a back and forth. This is the way we will move forward. Everybody plays the role they're skilled at.
No, but what I'm
play the role you're skilled at.
Okay.
See, and the other.
What I said was this, so we're clear. I said that there is never a role, in my opinion, for looters. Never a role for looters. So the idea that in a protest that there's some value to be had in a looter or in an arson, I'm saying that's never the case as far as I'm concerned. And that's what I said that day, and I still stand by it. What were you going to say, Vincent?
Well, I was going to say that, it's dropping back a little bit. And yes, there's a level of awareness, but there's also the level that your oppressor has to be made aware. That's where the acknowledgement comes in. Their understanding of, my situation is jacked up, and this is the role that you played in it. See, what a lot of people don't understand about white privilege, a lot of white people didn't understand about white privilege, and I've been going back and forth on social media for 2 hours last night about it, is that they don't seem to understand that, white privilege has not, they said that white privilege, being white, has not helped their life. And I explained to them that no, white privilege is the simple fact that the color of your skin has not hindered your life.
Right. Yeah. So there's education that needs to happen, right? But the education shouldn't stymie the protests, right? But the protests at some point have to lead to something. But the protester doesn't necessarily have to know what the plan is, right? They don't have to know what the end game is. If there's some organizer who is working that out and simply needs a mass of people to be able to show force, right, and to show movement, and then to be able to reach within that mass of people and then get them mobilized in some other facets of whatever the movement is, I think then you have the beginnings of something. But again, looting, burning stuff down, throwing shit at cops, I don't think that is where it is. And what we found out too is that the people who were doing that were not part of these protesters. It was some other group, right? That was trying to incite.
Eric, but we have to have a level of understanding that, and again, I'm going to say, no, I am not for looting, burning people's stuff down, and throwing stuff and throwing things at cops. But we do also have to acknowledge the other aspect of it, is that this is the language of people who have been unheard and frustrated. This is because they weren't hearing us.
You know what? I got it. That's what Martin Luther King said. Got it. But you know what?
No, 10 seconds, Eric. They did not hear Kaepernick with the knee until somebody threw a rock through a window. Now police want to take a knee.
Right, but it doesn't make it right. It does not make it right. I don't care what you say. It is not right to burn somebody's shit down. To
I didn't say that it was right.
Stuff. Right, that's my point.
I didn't say it right. All I'm saying is now it got their attention.
You asked for 10 seconds.
Well, no.
I don't get it.
It's not right, and it should not be encouraged, and that should be what's talked about all the time. That does not get us anywhere.
I agree.
Nowhere. In fact, I've said it before, it puts us back. It sets us backwards. Because what happens is you have white flight. So those people don't live in our communities, and we're stuck with the mess. We're stuck with what it looks like. We're stuck with the businesses being closed. We already have, what did we talk about before? 30% of these businesses will never reopen
40.
again. 40% of these businesses will never open again. Then you have on top...
And 80% of them are African American.
Then you're going to have on top of this rioting and start tearing up people's businesses. So people now who might have had a slight chance of opening up again, now can't open up. And even if they could open up, the stores around them are demolished, so people won't come into that community and spend money. We're not thinking past the emotions. When we talked about before that there's so many things that need to be done when they're in, I forget, Minneapolis, they talked about they're pulling the police out of the schools for patrolling. We talked about that years ago when they put them in the school systems. Police do not need to be in our schools with our kids. That's not how we should not have it. We shouldn't have metal detectors at our school. We shouldn't have an environment where kids go to school and it's not a safe space for them.
Right.
There are a lot of things that we have allowed politicians, allowed the police to do in our communities and have not fought back. They're still building a school juvenile center on the top of South Orange Avenue. You see how everything has distracted us and people aren't talking about that again?
Yeah.
So those are problems.
Yeah. And you know what? I want to say this too, and Dre Sandrod is correct. In terms of the police brutality stuff, right? And we did talk about this. You got people right now, and Diane, you said it, and Jody Pittman called in on the show and talked about the young black man in Newark who was shot by a police officer in Newark, right? So here we are protesting the brutal murder of an African American or black American in Minneapolis, but they didn't. But right in Newark, right? They didn't. So all those thousands of people that showed up, right, to protest Mr. Floyd's.
Hey Eric, can I do you one better?
Yeah.
2 nights ago, 4 people were shot in Newark. One of in a 75 shot shooting. Okay, on Irving Turner Boulevard. Okay, 1 man killed. Okay, and ain't nobody rioting and protesting for that. They're not riding and say, "Yo, man, you shot off 75 shots in a public space."
Right.
Yeah, now,
No.
go
So
protest that.
Yeah.
Right.
Go protest that.
2 weeks ago, we had a shooting up here on Maple and Care Avenue. So get the hell out of here when you got your ass down there with Raz Baraka marching about somebody killed in Minneapolis, and you ain't taking care of your own shit here. That's what frustrates me.
Yeah,
that's why I'm out there marching with you, because y'all distracted.
Yeah.
Your priorities are not together.
But you know why? But it's what I said yesterday, Diane. See, because we're not really focused on injustice. So now they're saying march for George Floyd, right? Justice for George Floyd. See, I'm saying no. Justice for all of us. We're all being brutalized. So when we're marching, the message should be, so, hey guys, you're listening, right? Because Corey, you guys listened and you did the other thing. So go and tell all of the people who are doing this stuff that it should be justice for all of us. Not for George Floyd, or not just for George Floyd, but for all of us. Because until we are united around that, until that is a single message coming from us, then yes, you're right, Farrakhan. You'll have people literally walk past this brutal murder over here and go and grab a sign for George Floyd.
Exactly.
There. That's crazy.
Exactly. And see, that's the same reason why the Black Lives Matter movement fell apart. Because they were co-opted. They weren't fighting for what they said they were fighting. As soon as somebody came along and said, I'm going to give you a check, you come work over here and do this, and let this die and go away, and that's what they did. The reason why you got an Al Sharpton out there every time an incident happens is because in between that time, he's sitting at home juicing up his curl. He ain't doing nothing. And we keep falling for it every time. People on Facebook, oh, he gave such a good sermon. He gave it. Whatever. Well, how is that serving us? That's not serving anybody. Yeah. We're stuck in the same space all the time, moving backwards continuously.
Right, and then they just serve up these things like Cory Booker, right? Okay, somebody listened to the Eric Dawson show and, I'm going to snatch this idea and I'm going to go on the media circuit and talk about this national registry for the... Okay, but you were mayor in Newark, right? And so you didn't realize that having that information would be helpful? You didn't realize that? I mean, come on, what are we talking about?
What he did is he used this platform to get him countrywide notice so that he could talk about where I live at. They're killing each other, and down the street, a young man was just killed. Like, you sound stupid.
But like I told you guys yesterday,
right?
And I played.
You're bragging about the death in the town that you are the lead official on.
I told you the information yesterday that and I played the clip. These unions that support these police officers are deeply embedded in policy making.
That's right.
So now, if we understand that, I didn't hear Corey talk about going after the police unions.
That's right.
See, why? See, because they have economic and political power.
Yes, they do.
So he's not talking about going after them. So he's talking about some shit that ain't gonna happen because that union's not gonna let it happen.
And that's what needs to be done. Like Sandra Jackson said in the feed, you got to defund these police departments. Defund them. Stop feeding them the money and allowing them to do what they do.
But listen, again, Dre Sandrod said we got to deal with it on a local level, right? But when you have the mayors going to the league of municipalities, dancing and partying and drinking with these guys, right? Because that's what they do, right? So they had the parties. All the different mayors had their parties. You had the union people show up. They got to drink and hang out and laugh and joke.
You got the union people throwing the parties.
Yes, and we're being brutalized by the policies. Mm-hmm. These violent policies. See, but nobody's talking about that. So they give you these, you get the platitude. Oh, what we need to do? Just like reparations, right, Diane? Oh, we need to have another study. We need to study
you remember that? Well,
next campaign.
Blah, blah, blah. And then they started giving out stimulus checks. Well, motherfuckers, that's reparations.
Oh no! Wait a minute.
They
Did you
found the
see?
money.
No. Reparations is prejudice because y'all only giving checks to descendants of slaves.
Did you see the? I put this up regarding these little, and this talks to you about policies, right? Because when people say, "Oh, you can't do things through government," oh no, you do a lot through, right? So here's the head. This headline comes from CBS News. Up to 90% of minority and women owners were shut out of the Paycheck Protection Program, right? I'm just going to read an excerpt for you. It says, based on how the program is structured, we estimate that upwards of 90% of businesses owned by people of color have been or will likely be shut out of the Payroll Protection Program. Further, roughly 95% of Black-owned businesses, 91% of Latino-owned businesses, 91% of Native Hawaiian businesses and Pacific Islander-owned businesses, and 75% of Asian-owned businesses stand close to no chance of receiving a PPP loan through a mainstream bank or credit union. Now,
but Eric, the problem with that is those same 90% have not operated on the books properly. If you operate on the books properly, if you set your company up properly, you will be able to do those things. But
well,
see,
that's not true.
the fringes and the
That's not
outside
true.
of it,
I know.
okay?
Listen,
So
I'm gonna tell
I don't know
you.
whose fault that is. I don't know if that's the fault of the business or if that's the fault of government. I think it might be a combination, but for sure, okay, unless you're asking, it's like this. It's the same as the Immigration Act that President Obama put into effect, where it was like, okay, you're still allowing illegal. You're a doctor, right? You're allowing people who don't belong to sort of surpass those that do, right? No, you can't do that. So the people that did it right and set up their company right and do it, they get the opportunity. Those that did it, they missed. That's it. I can't even be mad. If I didn't get something as a businessman, I ain't mad at nobody but Farrakhan Swab. Because I had 17 and a half, 18 years to do it. So I ain't mad at nobody, and can't nobody make that claim. That's the kind of stuff I can't take. That's the kind of stuff I can't hear. Because I know that if it's on paper, and you got it, and I got it the same way, you're going to give it to me.
This is what I'm saying, Farrakhan.
Well, if I can add to that, because my businesses are...
Wait a second, because I need to see, because we need to give proper... So here's what I'm going to read to you, Farrakhan. It says, one of the obstacles for minority business owners is that many banks participating in the low-interest forgivable loan program are only issuing loans to existing clients to speed up the approval process that grants access to the money. So that has nothing to do with them not being set up properly.
Oh, yes, it does. And I'm going to tell you, and if you as a business, you don't have a bank account, that's what it means. I'm not an existing client of a bank with a bank, and I got a business. I got a business for 4 or 5, 6 years, and you telling me I didn't set up a business account? I don't got.
There you go.
That means I didn't do an LLC. I didn't do a INC. I didn't do nothing.
You didn't do a DBA?
But
You didn't do anything.
no.
That you don't have a business account, right?
Now,
a business bank account. What does it take to do a business bank account? You got to give them 2 pieces of paper. Your personal life.
That's right.
You can't be mad at nobody about it.
And if I could add to that, because I'm going through the PPP with my company, and yeah, we're registered. We have bank accounts, and even the payroll company that we use later. I'm looking at it, and my application is stymied because I am not with a particular bank. So today I have to go and register with a bank to fast track my application.
Well, I don't know how true it is, but I've talked to several minority owners, and they've already gotten their checks for the PPP.
Yeah.
I didn't apply for the PPP. I applied for the traditional SBA loan, and they gave that to me, literally gave it to me more than I even asked for. And it's just sitting there, waiting for me to sign the approval letter.
Well,
So if you're registered...
My credit card processing company did it for me.
Mm-hmm.
They, I use Square for my process. My Square did it for me. They was like, hey, you can do it. They'll work the process through them. I worked it through them.
right, because Square has the bank
Square has the bank relationship.
Yeah, literally, the application it took me maybe 15 minutes tops to do the application. So there's a lot of, and I would like to, and I do agree, Eric, because I'll tell you, I went directly to my bank to apply in my bank the same week that they said it, the same exact week, and I bank with PNC for my business. I went there and they had already said they were overwhelmed and they weren't doing anymore. But I was a client with them for years. So I do believe there is something to it about,
leave that bank
available.
No, because I got the same problem. I had PNC. I did the same thing.
If your bank did that to you, and if that incompetent, find a new one. Find a new one.
Oh, yeah.
I have to agree. If you put your money with a bank,
I'm definitely working on
doing something for you, then it's time to pack up and go.
And that's what I'm doing. I'm leaving PNC.
Yeah, PNC.
Leave PNC. Come on over to TD Bank and Chase Bank. Two biggest banks and two of the best banks. They always take care of you. And yeah, that was a little plug for them.
Yeah.
The thing I hate about TD Bank is that they charge people when you write a check.
Yeah. You know what? When TD Bank was Commerce Bank, I loved them. Right? They were in fact the most convenient bank in America. And then when they became TD Bank, they fell off big time.
I agree.
Yeah, but they were amazing when they were Commerce Bank. They were absolutely amazing. So anyway.
So, Eric, you talked about, I think I touched on it the other day, and I can't remember which day it was, about people coming out, Oprah and all of them coming out and saying something, and they were silent, and people haven't heard anything from them. What are your thoughts on celebrities coming out and speaking out in regards to these protests?
So here's the deal. And I said this before. I said this yesterday. Magic Johnson and the rest of those folks, they've been stopped. We've seen videos of celebrity football athletes being stopped. Who was the one guy who was body slammed by the police last year, right? And so these things are out there, and they're dealing with them. They, I believe, on some level, want to remove themselves from the struggle of the everyday, I'm going to use my air quotes, everyday black American, right? So they believe in some sense they arrived, right? And then, but like Jay-Z said, no, because at the end of the day, you still nigga, right? But a lot of them don't want to believe that. They want to live in a world, in a bubble, which says something different to them. I think now them jumping on this bandwagon is about building up their notoriety, their publicity, their PR. It's like cause marketing, right?
Right.
Somebody said they're not. Their true characters are just showing, right? Because, when you try to say, well, let's leave all these entertainers and athletes out of the discussion, I think back to the civil rights movement, and what would it be without them?
No. You're missing my point. What I'm saying to you is this: but those people were in it. They were in it. All of them were involved. I'm saying that these athletes right now, or these entertainers, they're living their best life, knowing the struggle that's going on, deciding not to participate for whatever reason, right? And and my thing is this: you can't make people. I'm not gonna make somebody do something, right? So you don't want to do it. You're a human being. You live in America. It's your right not to do it. But I just want to call out your motivation when you do decide to do it. And I think it's all about brand management, right? So whatever your brand is as an entertainer or as an athlete, right? You now want to enhance your brand. And trust me, your publicist is telling you, hey, you know what? You should start a foundation.
It's about money.
No, see, the whole thing is...
And the reason I say that it's about money, right, is because the difference between entertainer in 2020 and an entertainer in 1965, because you was truly still nigga in 1965. Because in 1965, you still, as a black entertainer, couldn't stand in front of that billboard without getting busted in the head, right? You still couldn't go and sit in the front row of your own concert, right? You couldn't walk through the front door of your own show, right? That's why. Those men still were nigga, right? But these athletes, these entertainers, they have so much wealth that they do separate themselves, so they are, like you said, branded. They're trying to keep it real. See, Harry Belafonte didn't have to keep it real. Sammy Davis Jr. didn't have to keep it real. Right?
I understand that.
See, one of the things that we look at is there are two diverse parts of these multimillionaire African Americans, and there are the ones who are speaking out, who basically own their own brand and control their own destiny, like Charlemagne, like Magic Johnson, Kareem Abdul. They're speaking out, but then there are those who are being controlled, and they have a gag order by the people who control their brand.
The reason I brought it. Go ahead.
We're not talking about the ones who have a gag order. She asked about the ones who are speaking out. And what I'm saying is, for the ones who look, again, there's some who are authentic, and then there are other ones who are phony, right? And I believe that the ones who are authentic, hey, God bless them. We need them in the fight, right? But the other ones are opportunists, where their publicists say, hey, look, this would be good for you. This would be good for you. It's not about doing it for the movement. This would be good for you. It'll get you in the press. You haven't had a story about you in a while. So why don't you go and grab a sign and go stand over there?
Or why don't you steal the intellectual property of the Eric Dawson show and then turn it into your platform for reform?
So Kanye West went out to join a Chicago rally, and protesters angrily accused him of hijacking it. So what they said, the person on the mic, a young woman, 20-year-old Taylor Norwood, said that, and I quote, "I would like to reiterate that this is a youth-led rally. This is not a celebrity pop-up. You will not hijack this rally from the people who organized it." She said, "We're
I've been saying that on this show for years.
I know.
Right? So that's just the fact. Right? You know, simple and plain. Low pop wrong 22 hours out of every day. But for 120 seconds, it's dead right. So I'm not going to say that Candace Owens is wrong about everything she says, and that's what they were negating her whole entire presence in this world now, because one thing they may not like to say.
But isn't that what we do as people and as black people? We emotionalize everything, and when somebody says something that makes sense, we don't want to agree with them because we're so emotionally attached to our feelings.
I got over 100 responses on this post right now behind this. Right?
But
because there are people trying to debate with me and convince me that I'm crazy.
But here's why I said again, this whole thing can't be about George Floyd. See, because then it becomes easy for people to pick things like, well, he's still using drugs, or he still did this, and we shouldn't look at it, and start tearing him down, right? And then now you're defending him or not defending him, and now all of a sudden we're distracted again. We should be focused on injustices and brutality committed upon each and every one of us. Do you understand? So that's what I'm saying. So this whole thing, as tragic as it was that this police officer snuffed out this man's life, right? And that police officer should be punished, should be sent to jail for the rest of his life, and so should the other ones. I believe that Candace Owens is right. That he is a victim. He is a victim of this police brutality, and so are all of us, right? So yes, we need to deal with that. And so if there's going to be some people who stand guard to make sure that those cops pay, fine. But the bigger issue is, and it's bigger than him, is that all of us, Black Americans, are constantly, even today, right now, being brutalized. Today. So why are we marching today for somebody else instead of marching for ourselves?
See, Eric, the thing that really struck home with seeing Mr. Floyd die was the example of the Willie Lynch letters. You take this big buck
destroy him, we're all to see, to increase your superiority and fear. Now, what Candace did was a real backhand to, the actual cause. I don't care if he was using drugs. That should have no, or he had drugs in his system. That should have no effect on this police officer putting his knee on his neck until he ceased to exist.
And you're right, except for the problem is right now, it has gone beyond that issue. Right? Yesterday or the day before yesterday when he had the funeral, right? That wasn't the topic. They were trying to make him the Black Jesus. Okay? They were trying to make him something other than who he was.
But every funeral you go to, they make that person Jesus.
No. But Farrakhan.
You can't do that, bro. You can't do that. You gotta go. Listen, I am who I am, right? The person asked me on my post, right? He said, imagine if somebody had dirt to bring out on you. And I said, listen, there might be plenty of dirt to bring out on me. But understand, I've been out of prison for 24 years as of May 8, 2020. I ain't never went back. And if I got killed by a cop today, y'all can say a lot of things about me, but you ain't going to say I'm involved with no drugs. You ain't going to say I'm involved with no crime. And you ain't going to find no drugs in my system because it ain't there. So if you want to talk about rehabilitation, I did that in my life. Okay? Some people don't. And then it allows for certain other things. Right? So when you have a George Floyd who unfortunately was killed, wrong, dead, effing wrong. But at the same time, his lifestyle is a lifestyle that may lead up to getting killed in the street by the police.
But wait a minute, stop. I don't even want to go.
Stop it. Don't do that. His lifestyle may have been, but he wasn't in that lifestyle at the time where he got killed by the police.
All right. Farrakhan, but the statement that you just made...
That's an assumption. Because if I go by... hold on. Let me just respond to what Vince said. Okay? If you go by the situation, his lifestyle was he was passing off a fake bill. I don't know if he did in the end or if he did it. I've heard different stories. I don't know. Okay? And I don't think anybody... There has not been a confirmed yes or no to that.
But okay, wait a minute. But stop. We don't need to go... Right.
So
but
I'm not going to have that debate.
Farrakhan, here's the issue, right? Even if he was passing a fake $10 bill, for the police officers to show up with their guns drawn,
banging on his window,
right? Do you understand?
Okay.
So they came escalating a situation that didn't need to be escalated, even if he was doing that. But here's the point that I'm making regarding him having whether he had a criminal record or not. And you're saying, well, he could have gotten... It's kind of like saying, you know what? If this woman went into a bar and she's dressed this way and she gets raped, well, it was because she was dressed that way.
No.
She can dress the way she wants to dress. And wait a minute, let me finish what I'm saying. Let me finish, please. Allow me to finish what I'm saying. And so now, whether this guy is currently involved in doing drugs has nothing to do with what those police officers did. So to try to conflate the two, which is what I'm saying, so you're conflating this. You're saying, well, because he's doing this, we need to give some credence to that. No, we shouldn't at all. Now, what creates the distraction...
That demonization process is called victim shaming.
So what creates the distraction
it's not
again...
victim shaming if I put myself in the situation. Right, that's what I'm saying. If he put himself in a situation in which police would be coming for him, then that's what happens.
No. That is victim shaming. You can't sit up here and say that you put yourself in. You can't say that this woman, because she likes to wear miniskirts, put herself in a situation to be raped.
And that's like saying, and that's like saying, wait a minute, Farrakhan. It's like saying, you know what? You put yourself in a situation where you're before a judge, and then you put yourself.
All right, does not constitute you should get raped.
Farrakhan.
But to commit a crime means police might be coming.
No, wait. Farrakhan, I want you to understand what you're saying. So that's like saying this. You know what? You're before this racist judge right now who's getting ready to sentence you disproportionately for the crime, and he's getting ready to sentence you differently than he sentenced all white people who commit the same crime. But you know what? You deserve that, because you shouldn't have put yourself in front of that judge in the first place by committing this crime.
Now, can I say something as a person who's had to sit in front of the judge and let that happen? Can I say something?
Well,
I'm going to tell you straight up and down. You know what? As a man who sat in front of that judge, when that judge told me what he was going to do to me for something that I know I did, guess what? I don't care if he went softer on the other guy. I did what I did. I got what I got. I knew what I was going to get when I did what I did. So for me, because the people that argue that are, to me, the people that I can't roll with, because those are snitches.
No.
The jokers that want fair justice are the ones that I find questionable.
No.
I
think that went right over your head, brother. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think you missed the point.
Farrakhan, come on. And I'm a brother who was formerly incarcerated as well. And we both know that snitching is at an all-time high. So that's not an excuse either. What you're trying to do is justify the statement rather than saying that you know what, it does not matter what a person does. Farrakhan.
I hear what you're saying.
It does not matter.
If you don't believe me, right? Someone approached me 2 weeks ago when my kid brother was talking about me. I didn't even know.
Right, but I don't. Right, now we've devolved into. Wait, whoa. Stop. Right, stop.
I knew that I was involved with what I was involved with.
All right.
When I'm involved with something, no matter what the consequence is, I'm good with it.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
So listen, I don't want to get anecdotal. I don't want to get this is what happened particularly in me. What I'm saying in general is this. If committing this crime, if stealing this pen carries with it a 5-year prison sentence, right? But now I steal the pen, these white guys steal the pen and they get a 5-year prison sentence, and a black guy over there steals the pen and he gets a 50-year prison sentence, then it's not he got what he got. See, it's not he got what he got. And it's not he shouldn't have put himself in that position. No, he should get the same 5 years. Now, if he got the same 5 years...
Racial inequality in the justice system. That's what Eric just explained to you.
If you just got busted for stealing the pen and you stole the pen, whatever comes your way comes your way. I don't really care. I'm being honest.
No. See, because that goes against the...
So there lies... Wait a minute. So there lies the injustice... Okay, I can't... There lies the issue that folks are... One of the issues that folks are talking about now in terms of the criminal justice system, right? Where crack cocaine was dealt with in the legal system differently than powder cocaine. Right, that in urban communities, black folks were treated differently than white folks for cocaine. No, it's not right. That's not right. I don't care. I mean, I'm not gonna. I don't want to belabor it, Diane. I know there's some other things we want to talk about, but no. Right.
And this is how they did it, Eric. They labeled cocaine a recreational drug. And crack cocaine, they labeled it a 20-time addictive, what do they call it, hallucinogenic that caused them to act out of their actual normal nature.
Right.
Yet it's the same thing.
Right.
But black people got sentenced twice as hard for crack cocaine than the whites who got with the powder.
Yeah.
So you can't tell me that's not the same thing, brother. Brother Farrakhan, there's the hold up, no, let me finish before you cut me off. Let me finish. Farrakhan, please. There's the litigated factor of the crime, and then there's the aggregated factor of the crime. And but two of those, and what they actually beat black people on the most is the aggregated factors. The litigation says that it may be 5 years, but the aggregated factor is the emotional part, or what people call the emotional scars of the crime that leads to the extension of the sentence. The litigated factor is the simple fact that maybe he did pass some fake bills. We don't know that. None of that evidence came out. The aggregated factor is that the simple fact that it was a routine pullover. He complied with everything the officer said and still lost his life.
Oh, pause. There we are.
No, let him talk now, Vincent.
Okay. There we go, trying to say fact not in evidence. Okay? Because if you look at it, first off, let's be very clear. I'm still trying to figure out how the hell he got across the street. Because let's be clear, where he was killed at was not where he was arrested at. He was arrested around the corner. So we still got to see the videos that show what really went down. What I do see is the ass whooping that he took in that police car. I posted that. Where you can see those cops was beating the hell out of him in the back seat before he got on the ground. But remember, he was pulled over around the corner. There is there's so much more to
but
this.
wait a minute. But I want to look. But here's the deal. And then like so all this is gonna come out. But here's the thing. No matter what he did, at the point that the man is on the ground, so the piece of the video that we see where he's on the ground and he's handcuffed, right? So no matter what preceded that, he's now handcuffed. He is on the ground, on his belly, and you have an officer with his knee in his neck for over 8 minutes. There is nothing that preceded that. Nothing. So to have a conversation about, well, I need to understand what took place around the corner and how he got here, that might justify, because that's the only reason I'd be looking for that information, to figure out how it justifies a cop having his knee in his neck for 8+ minutes. And beyond that, having the other officers stand around while this guy is saying, I can't breathe. But if we're thinking of, well, but before we can address this, we need to understand what took place around the corner. I think you're barking up the wrong tree today, brother.
Issues of it? You do need to understand what took place.
No, you don't.
No, you don't.
Once you subdue him, whatever he did around the corner, once he's subdued and compliant, whatever he did around the corner is irrelevant. You're going to arrest him. If he did something illegal, which caused it all, you're going to now arrest him.
Right.
Like, but if he's now subdued, if he no longer poses a threat, he's handcuffed. You got officers all around him. I don't need to know what he did around the corner anymore. I need to understand what's happening right now to him.
Correct. See, what Eric is talking about in terms of police terms is called securing the subject, meaning you neutralize the threat that he can now cause harm to you while you're investigating. When he is handcuffed,
see,
you have secured it.
Otherwise, if we follow the other rationale, here's what we get. Ready? So let's say he was taking shots at them with a gun, right? And then he ran, and they pursued him, and he threw the gun away. They saw him, and then he dove on the ground, put his hands up. Then they came and handcuffed him, and then the one officer who he was shooting at comes up to him and shoots him. Because around the corner, he was shooting at them.
No, and that cop would be dead wrong. Maybe I should clarify and say, I don't believe that what the police did with the neck and the way they held him down, I do not believe that was correct. I believe they are wrong. I believe it is murder. I believe that they should be prosecuted for murder, right? But what I'm saying to you is, we're talking about the law, how laws are written, and as the three of us have all had cases, so we understand how laws play out. And there are so many technicalities to this. I'm trying to get us ready for the reality of a acquittal, is what I'm saying to you, right? Because there can be one. When the full videos come out, when the full story comes out, okay, the way they're going to present it legally, they might find an acquittal. Okay?
Okay. What we should be
Burn, like the night before last. It was a...
You trying to say something, Diane?
Riots and the racism. And in that, the one of the jurors said, it wasn't that we didn't see that how he was beating Rodney King, how they beat him. It was that by the way the laws are written, they were justified in doing so. That's why we acquitted him.
Right.
That's what I'm saying to you. Okay? We got that. The way these laws are written, they might get acquitted.
All right, what were you going to say, Diane?
I was going to say that's what we were talking about earlier, that the laws have to be changed. And that's going back to when Farrakhan said, no, we shouldn't be standing outside the elected officials' house. Yeah, we should, because that's part of them because they're currently in office. They can currently make changes. We have to address that with them as well, because like Farrakhan said, there is a likelihood that they can all get off. They can all get off. And then what? You start rioting again? They change their names and they move. Now what? We're in the same position.
Now, the biggest law that has to be changed, that we have to overcome in terms of prosecuting police, because the only police officer that actually got prosecuted recently was a black cop. But prosecuting these white police officers, we have to change the law, giving them immunity from prosecution. Now, that's been bastardized since the actual formation of the police office. And what happened was police officers were getting sued because during the process of stopping a crime, they caused harm and other things, which they gave them immunity for that. That's now been bastardized, and they get complete immunity for just about everything they do. Or, as they said in training, you have the right to be wrong. There's a difference between being wrong and error of judgment that causes somebody to lose property or even some time or whatever the case may be. But to lose life, come on. You cannot tell me that nobody knows that if you put your knee and all of your weight on the back of a person's neck for 8 minutes and 45 seconds, that it would not cause death.
Well, I'm not gonna look. I'm not gonna say whether.
Well, let's put it this way: they should have known it would cause harm.
Yeah, I'm not gonna suggest that they would know that it was gonna cause death, but he certainly knew that he was harming him. And then beyond that, at the point that Mr. Floyd is saying that he cannot breathe, right? And then you have other people who are around watching this, videotaping this, yelling at the cops. He's saying he can't breathe.
That's the thing too. So what we going to do about these vigilante videotapers that are out there watching crimes, but they don't want to step in? Nobody steps in and say anything. Nobody says
but I
we got to stop because
Diane,
they don't want to get it.
Diane, if you step in, so right, they can, but they could also be charged with
hindering.
Yeah.
Hindering the police officer procedure or investigation.
Right.
They will also what other things happen is that they confiscate their video cameras.
Right. So
and there goes your evidence.
So part of it, and you could ask the question: should you put yourself in legal jeopardy to save somebody's life?
It depends on if you want to be a martyr or not.
Question. But the point that I was making is that this officer, I'm not going to suggest that he knew he was going to cause the death of Mr. Floyd, but he knew he was hurting him, and he knew he was hurting him badly, right? And he was cavalier about it because he had his hand in his pocket and didn't give a damn. But beyond that, as Mr. Floyd is gasping for air and pleading and saying he cannot breathe, and as all of the people who are around are telling the officer that he can't breathe, so now the officer is aware. Right, the officer's aware. So even if the officer says, I didn't hear him, the officer cannot deny that he didn't hear all of the other people yelling at him saying, this guy can't breathe.
Well, no, and he cannot deny the paramedic saying, let me check his pulse, and him saying, no, he's going to stay right here.
Right, and then beyond that, you have other officers who have the duty to protect. And so at some point, they abandon their duty and responsibility to protect Mr. Floyd from the assault by that officer. See, if an officer comes on a scene and sees another officer abusing, beating up, or otherwise harming somebody, that officer has a responsibility to protect. But what they do is they decide that they put up that blue wall.
Well, they do. They did protect. They protected their own. You just said it. They put the blue wall.
Yeah. So they made decisions about who they wanted to protect. And now, don't cry now. You decided, and my grandmother used to say, you make your bed, you lay in it.
You lay in it. Yeah, right? That's what my grandmother said.
You decided to make that bed, and it was working for you, so you thought, right? Because you're a cop. And now, you realize it's not that comfortable, so you're going to have to lay in it. Anyway, what's up with Joe Biden? Here's the headline. He suggests that police could shoot assailants in the legs instead of in the heart. Like, the hell was that? What is it?
Because he's trying to be down the middle. He's trying to be down the middle.
Do you understand what? So he said, shoot him.
He said mainland. Look, isn't that what the slave master said?
Yeah, that's right. You don't want to kill him. You want to wound him. You want to scare him. You want to get him back on the plantation working. I think that is crazy. I think that's I mean, they got to be cringing. They're like, yo, you know, we're doing so much. We're trying to do so much damage to Donald Trump. He's doing damage to himself. Oh, and I want to talk about these job numbers too. What was it? 2 point. Was it 2? What was the number?
2.4 new applicants.
No. That have gone back to work.
No.
Yeah. Like I believe they say 2.1 million. Did I get that number right? It's a significant number, and it was funny too because just before we came on air, well, about an hour or so, Joe Scarborough was forced to acknowledge that the economy is open faster than everybody predicted, that these numbers are not going up yet, and that people are going back to work in big numbers, in impressive numbers. And you said it today, Vincent, that Donald Trump is out there tweeting about the economy. But we talked about that, right? I said that this is what he's going to ride. This is why he was fighting to get it open.
Yep.
This is what why he was fighting to get it open. And the question that I asked several times, though I believe in social distancing, I believe in following the science, I believe in all of those things. I did say that at some point, because you have these essential workers having to go to work, you're going to have other people go to work. And so how do you do it responsibly?
Here's the big thing. The numbers haven't been confirmed by a reliable source.
Well, who's reliable nowadays? I mean, really.
Right. So that'll all flush itself out, right?
It would have to be the National Registry of Unemployment from state to state.
And it'll flush itself out. But I think, and so here becomes the question, and I was pondering it weeks ago. Was the fight on the Democrat side, right, to cripple the economy, the collateral damage be all of these people, and then have their outrage be at that man?
I don't understand. Rephrase it.
You lost me.
Yeah. So when the argument was we got to open the economy, it was clear on one side that Donald Trump was trying to open the economy for political purposes. On the other side, there was just an assumption that, well, the Democrats, just out of humanitarian, considerations, they want to keep the economy closed. I'm asking the question now. Were their reasons for wanting to keep the economy closed more nefarious, and were they willing to sacrifice Americans, their jobs, their financial well-being for political purposes?
Well, we'd have to look and see what connections to their investments have been hindered as well. Because why would they want to stop their cash flow and watch their stocks go down? Unless what they're trying to do is push the stocks and everything down so they continue to buy low.
Buy them low.
Right.
And have a triple increase.
Right.
Yes, because the bulk of the politicians that had the heads up a week and a half about the virus hitting America withdrew their stocks from the market and to liquidate their assets. So that could be a very good point, Diane. But then you also have to look at another aspect. Donald Trump wanted to open the economy because that's what he was running his campaign on. The Obama economy was doing well. Now the Trump economy is doing bad, so he had to push it open. So he went and put a headlock on all of these states to open it up, even ignoring the CDC specifications for what you would need to do to open up your state again. They pushed past that, and now the report shows that those states that have opened up in spite of CDC recommendations that they stay remain closed now have an increase in the coronavirus. Now, does that make any sense to push the economy yet bring on more deaths?
And we got to figure this out, though, right? Do they have an increase because they're doing more testing?
They have an increase because they're doing more testing.
testing.
Right.
They're having an increase because they are working and no longer sheltering in place and social distancing. They have an increase because they basically said, okay, we're going to push open the economy too soon. And it was exactly what Fauci said would happen.
Yeah.
So now we've got 2 million people back to work, but now we've got another 9,000 dead.
Yeah, but those numbers that you're talking about, the increase because people are being tested. Because of course, the more people you test, the more numbers you're going to have.
Right, and even beyond that, I mean, you're looking at the deaths are a lag, right? So when you look at when the economy opened, right, those deaths are not immediate and are not necessarily attached to the opening, right? So
well, the earliest opening was 22 days ago.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they say it takes what that 2-week period with the virus.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, they're showing an increase within those 20 some odd days. So it has a great deal to do with them opening up the economy and spreading the virus.
Right.
Now, the simple fact that everybody is not complaining about not having enough tests anymore, but there's still a shortage in testing.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. But what I wanted to just make sure that we were clear on is that because there is more testing than there was before. Not enough, certainly, but more than there was before. So when we're talking about more cases, we have more cases because we have more testing.
Okay, yeah, that's Donald Trump's theory, which is why he's got his big thumb on getting all those tests out. Because more tests means more results. That means more problems. So let's eliminate the tests and just get people back to work. But but we're saying, okay, and he's pushing and tweeting that, yes, that's right. 2 billion people are back to work. My economy is coming back stronger than ever. Really? But the deaths are going back. We may have to shut down again because of that.
I'm still looking, right? Because we're looking at New Jersey opening up. We're looking at New York opening now. And
Pennsylvania.
And right, and at least right now, not hearing any sky falling stuff. So we'll see how it plays out. What else is going on?
Oh Lord, finally. Let's see. Well, we have an article that the Washington Post wrote, and they called it "The Black-White Economic Divide as Wide as It Was in 1968."
Yes.
So I guess this proves that there is no progress.
That's what I see. Yeah. But you know what? I keep saying, look at the data. See, I don't want to have a conversation without the data. The data suggests that we are not doing better. That's what the data says. So, unless there's other data and I'm happy to look at whatever data people give me, but the data that I look at, Diane, says exactly what that says, that we're not doing better. And so there are these feel-good moments, right? There are these little shiny objects that are presented in front of us that give us the illusion of inclusion or feeling better. We get more people that look like us elected to political offices, but nothing is getting better. Nothing. As a team,
Again,
we're losing. We're
Eric,
worse off.
Sometimes progress is not an evolution. I mean, not a revolution.
I get that, Vincent. I don't.
It's an evolution.
I'm not listening.
So
I'm not even.
I'll tell you a little bit of what the article says. So the article goes into the economic difference between the two. So in 1960, the income for white people was $50,000, where blacks were at $0. Now this is the median household wealth. Now we're looking in 2020, and the white income household is at 149,000. I'm sorry, this was 2016. 149,000, where black Americans 13,000.
So 13% of the population. That's really poor.
No shit. That's what we've been saying.
Mm-hmm.
Saying as a whole, they said higher education has been touted as the ticket for middle class for black Americans, but it has not been true is not held true to that.
No, it's
So-
not. It's not. We listen. We keep being convinced that, like, I was listening to something
Education
else.
is a ticket.
I was listening to something else on the radio today, and the guy was saying I couldn't get my recorder out in time, but he was saying that, like, the worst thing that we can do is get back to normal. Like, that's the
Exactly.
worst thing that we could do. Look at what normal was.
The worst.
Exactly. What have I been saying since the start of this? Screw normal. We need a new norm.
I'm not quite sure what you've been saying because you all over the place. You like when both sides of the fist. I keep.
Hey, you know what? Vincent is Switzerland.
Exactly.
It's the simple fact that, I do have a different view sometimes from you guys. It doesn't mean that I need to be voted off the island. It just means that, I need to exchange a dialect to test, approve, or exonerate, my view.
No.
Either I'm right or I'm wrong.
Look, I don't know about voting off the island because I love the book, what is it, Lord of the Flies with Piggy. There's no voting off. It's taking you down. It's going to be a hunt.
Hunt you down.
Man.
But no, I mean, listen, I'm passionate about my views and opinions, as always, and I don't have a problem with sticking to my convictions. Unless you can prove otherwise, then that's, that's
listen,
where I've been.
And I think we pride ourselves here on not having folks who are just, nodding yes to everything, right? That we have these, divergent views about stuff, because this is, a microcosm of what exists out there, right?
Absolutely.
And so when people watch us or listen to us go back and forth or go at it, these are the same kinds of debates and discussions that are happening around, tables in black families, not just black families, but white families too, throughout this country and the world, as a matter of fact.
Absolutely. So last article for the last couple of minutes, to survive, move your business upscale or downscale. We talked about this before, that you will either have to compete on the high end, the low end, or right down the middle. Either you offer high-end product or service or a low-cost solution. Or you could straddle the middle and be all the things to all the people.
You can't do that. That's hard. You have to look. So when you start a business, you got to do the proper work from the beginning. So it's kind of like farming. You need to understand the soil, right? You can't just go and throw some damn seeds down, right? Maybe the soil is not fertile to grow that, right? Maybe there's too much, the pH in the soil or the pH balance of the soil is such that it's not going to grow. So test that out, otherwise you're wasting your money on some seeds. Then once you understand the soil or the landscape in terms of the business that you're thinking about getting in, then you have to have a plan, right? And again, I'm going to use the farming analogy, right? Because you're putting the seed out, and then, which is your product or service, and then you're going to reap a harvest, hopefully, right? You know what I mean? You're not going to come back with empty baskets. You're gonna have a revenue stream. So once you figure all of that, once you start to decide on what it is, you can't vacillate, because you're going to create confusion with the consumer, right? Who are you? What are you?
What they're saying is, in food shopping, grocery stores were middle of the road would do the middle of the road offers, but now there's a shift. Like a lot of low cost bulk suppliers, like Sam's Club, Costco's.
But give me an example of a middle of the road offer.
You said give you an example of a middle of the road offer?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see. I think what they're using is more of the grocery store, the food shopping, the middle of the market, increasingly, what they're saying is the middle of the market is increasingly going away and getting chewed up on either end.
Right.
So either got the high cost or the low end.
There you go.
So, gotcha.
That's right. So either you're going to have an entry price, right, and that's the space you're playing in, or you're going to have a premium product and you're not in the commodity business, right? So, and this is what I loved about Apple and still love about Apple. You don't see Apple computers, well, maybe you do now, but you didn't before. They didn't have sales. Apple didn't do sales. You didn't have coupons to be able to go get a discount on an Apple product. It was what it was. You paid for it or you just didn't have one, right? And then on the other side, you had Dell and IBM and the rest of them. They would always have sales. So their computers became more of a commodity, right? I need one. It's utilitarian, so I'm going to get this less expensive one. What's the processor speed? Apple was a lifestyle, right? And people were buying into the lifestyle. So like my Apple computer cost me $4,000, right? And just paid that because I want to, well, I think it's a superior product, but I mean, I've got my whole ecosystem, my laptop, my phone, my iPad, they all ring and everything together. Everything is synchronized. But either commodity or you are a brand. And so if you're lower price, then what you're attracting are people who are price shoppers, right?
Yep.
If you are higher price, then you're looking for people who are looking for premium stuff. But that's why I said you can't be in the middle, because if I'm a premium purchaser, I'm not going to like some store that has this other stuff in it. And if I am a bargain shopper, right, then I'm confused when I see something that's $300. You know what I'm saying? So yes, so one or the other.
So then they said just what you said. You got to either niche up or niche out or niche down. So if you're in the middle and you're trying to get out, you really have to find your niche within your company by providing more gourmet and specialized offerings like fresh baked artisan bread, or amazing butcher, or a unique fresh fish, something like that. They said that if you do the middle, you have to dominate the middle, meaning if you don't see moving into a niche that is viable, a different strategy is to dominate the middle by buying up your competitors. If you can't get smaller, get bigger. Do acquisition and make your, say, for instance, your dog biscuit business a dog kennel instead. So instead of, I guess they're saying, instead of walking the dogs, you provide a kennel service, you know, for overnight and stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah.
That makes sense. That makes sense. But yeah, it is about dominating, for sure. You want to get in that space. You want to own it. You want to be as competitive. You can't be passive. There's no space for passivity in business. You will get gobbled up. Like Mr. Wonderful says, they will crush you like the cockroach you are.
That's what you are. So with that thing, we got to talk about the book. So we haven't been doing our book club lately. We kind of fell off. That was my fault. But we're back on again.
Yes, we are.
And we're going to start and finish this book, and we're going to have it due the second Thursday of July, because that's the week after the 4th.
Now, which book is that again, Diane?
July 9th. This is when, wait a minute, let me run inside, because I'm outside enjoying the humidity. Give me 1 second.
I did the artwork for it. I can't find it, though. So I apologize.
Okay, here it is. When affirmative action was white, the untold history of racial inequality in the 20th century America, by Ira Katson Nelson. And you can put the artwork up later. And Kevin is joining us in on the book, because he's the great bookster, because he picks the books for us. So that should be good.
Yeah, that should be good. And I speaking of computers, so yes, we're gonna read the book. I'm gonna I think I was on chapter 2 or 3 when we fell off, so I'll get back on the wagon.
I was on page 10.
So,
Yeah.
yo, you know what I did today? And this is maybe filler, but it's frustrating me right now. Because on your computer, all of your files are recognized based on a path, right? So if you're working in, I don't know how it works with Microsoft Word. I don't really use Microsoft Word, but in the graphics programs that I use, if I import an image, it is identifying a path. So either the image is on my desktop or it's in a folder.
Oh yeah, it does the same thing.
Right.
It automatically identifies it in the background unless you reassign it to redirect it to another folder. Mm-hmm.
So I got a note this morning because I got so many video files and all kinds of stuff on here. It said that I was running out of space, that I only had like 40 gigabytes left. Right now, that's a decent amount if you're not doing videos and other big files. And so I got this terabyte external hard drive, Diane and Vincent, and I decided, you know what? I'm going to just dump everything from my desktop that I had open. I'm just going to put it on this terabyte hard drive. So it wound up being, like 200 and some gigabytes of data. But that stuff, some of them were files that belong to this show. So like I can't go to different screens because they'll be blank because it's asking for the file. So now I got to go back and I got to put all that crap back on my desktop and then go sort through it all. So that'll be my day. And then once I do that, then I'll get to the book.
Okay. So how is your garden coming along? My eggplants are starting to, not my eggplants. My potatoes are starting to sprout. So I have to cover them some more.
I didn't plant my potatoes yet. They're, I'm sure I got sprouts on them in the bags. So maybe this weekend I'll go out. And I got these, I don't know where they are, but I got these green bags. Did you get the same bags?
I got black bags.
But they have the little pouch on the side.
Yeah.
So
love
once the potatoes
bags.
start
These
to
are
grow,
like eco black. What do they call them? Economy green, eco green bags. I love these things.
Yeah. So I'm gonna hopefully plant the potatoes this weekend. I gotta take my my tomato plants, which are doing really well, and I gotta move them into something bigger now.
Right.
And then my zucchini. I got two kind of zucchini. Those plants are doing well too. I got to move them into something larger. I think I was on the phone with you and I told you that my basil had struggled a little bit, but it's on the comeback now. And so, and then I think I got peppermint, and the peppermint is thriving. So, so doing all right.
Basil is kind of hard. It's kind of finicky. Even growing it inside, I don't know what it is about basil. I have red peppers, basil, tomatoes, eggplant, what's this? Hot peppers, because they didn't have the jalapeno peppers when I went. Parsley, peppermint, spinach, okra, beets, squash, potatoes, cauliflower, and I think I got something else. I just don't know what it is. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Most of the stuff is stuff I do all the time, but the eggplant is new, the potatoes are new. Oh, and I'm doing onions. That's new too.
Ah.
Yeah.
Ooh. Now, what do you do to do the onion?
How?
Do you just do you? Oh, did they say something about like letting it sprout and cutting it, putting it in water, let it get roots, and then you put it in dirt?
I didn't even have to do that because mine started rooting already. So all I had to do is put it in the dirt, and it's going.
Got it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we'll see how we do. We'll take some pictures when we get to harvest, and then maybe we'll have a bounty enough to share with a few people.
Do like you were doing with your cobbler and bread pudding and all that other stuff. Start trading off stuff.
I give you 2 tomatoes for, I don't know. We'll figure it out.
2 cherry tomatoes, not two.
Yeah,
not beefsteaks.
Yeah, not the beefsteak tomatoes. So listen, what do you have going on? Oh, I gotta put a picture up after I'm done. Amina bought me a burger, and I don't eat a lot of. They suggested I don't eat a lot of red meat, or if I do, I eat quality, right? So this burger was a very, very expensive burger. Wait till I put
What
a
a
picture up.
was it Kobe burger?
You know what? I'll send it to other people, but I'm gonna actually text it to you now, so your reaction is gonna be phenomenal.
Wait a minute, is this a cooked burger or a burger that you're about to cook?
Oh no.
Okay.
No, it's not a cooked burger. I already I consumed it.
Wow.
So I'm sending it to you too, Vincent, so you could see it. It was a phenomenal burger.
Okay. By the way, did you guys see the latest on the Aubrey case?
Oh, what's going on?
Oh yes, I did. I'm lying. They started the case Tuesday, the trial on Tuesday, and they had already said, the police chief from the county had already said that he wasn't going to allow protesters and all of that, and he was warning people to be careful if you came down there.
Yes. Also, they found the testimony of the guy who took the videotape. He stated that after they tried to run him over and he jumped into a ditch to avoid it, then once they shot him, he stood over his head and called him a effing N. Yeah, I heard that. Yeah, but they had also arrested the guy who was doing the videotaping, because basically what he said was he saw them driving down the street, so oh my God, this burger is, I know, I'm looking at this burger, I'm like, oh, see? What the? I know, now I'm hungry. Now this is what Burger King Whoppers used to look like. Remember the commercial? They used to be so juicy looking, they don't look so good like that no more. Yeah, with Rodney Allen Rippy trying to eat one. Yeah.
Now, hey guys, listen. I took that with this iPhone. That is a burger.
I tell you, iPhone do it. That cheese, what is that? Real cheddar cheese?
Yeah.
Funny. I mean, that look like that government cheese. Pickles and big old fat tomatoes. Big old fat pickles. Outside. Oh man. Oh man, I'm hungry now. Did you have mustard, ketchup, and mayonnaise on it?
I had no mayonnaise and ketchup.
Oh man, you gotta put some deli mustard on your burgers too. That just tops it off.
I can't eat them often, but like I said, when I do,
what you gotta do is make another one. I'll be there in an hour.
It's got to be a quality burger. It's got to be quality beef.
Yeah.
But the point was,
that definitely looks like a Kobe burger.
I'll trade a couple of my tomatoes, even the beefsteak tomatoes, for another burger.
For a quarter pounder, huh?
For a quarter pounder. What do you guys have going on this weekend?
What I'm doing now?
Gardening?
Gardening. Relaxing. Because I just had my yard completely done in the front. Well, not done, but the hedges and stuff cut. And so it doesn't look like a wilderness over here anymore. So, yeah, that's what I'm going to do.
Right.
I'm getting rid of my COVID-19 beer because I got a Zoom lecture on the politics of race, dating back from post-slavery to now. I also have a solo. I'll be singing a solo, an original song that I wrote and arranged at my church Zoom meeting on Sunday. So preparing for that, and I'm working
Diane,
on being.
Have you heard Vincent's voice? Diane. All right.
What? What's the question?
Have you heard Vincent sing?
No, thank you. I have not.
Oh no, I haven't. He's got an angelic voice.
Interesting.
I know. He could be in the what's that singing show, The Mask something?
Yes.
Well, don't you have to actually be a celebrity to get on there, or a former celebrity?
I don't know. I would say that since you show up here every day on the show for 2 hours, you're a celebrity. You're a hood celebrity, but you're a celebrity nonetheless.
Well, thank you. I'm hoping to parlay this wonderful relationship into actually becoming the next United States Senator and working hard with my new congressman from New Jersey, Eric Dawson, where we can form a coalition of people looking to do right to change our world.
Yeah, I want to go in there.
12 o'clock.
I want to go in there and tear shit up. Anyway, thank you guys for tuning in. You know what? Diane, that's what my mailer's gonna say. Elect me so I can go and tear shit up. So Look, got to be truthful with the people. Thank you guys for tuning in. Enjoy your weekend. We'll see you guys back on Tuesday.
Be
Monday.
safe, everybody. Be blessed. If God's will, we'll all return.